My own son tried to poison me on the 4th of July, and he thought I wouldn't notice. But I've lived too long, built too much, and buried too many loved ones to let betrayal slide. Devin, my only boy, slipped something into my drink at the Sunset Tower, right under fireworks and the jazz band's brass trumpets. His wife, Monica, cool as ice, smiled while he did it. They thought I'd go down easy, that I'd never see it coming. But that was the night I made a promise to myself. They would regret underestimating me. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. I'm 65 years old, and I've got more miles on me than the rusted Mustang still parked in my garage. Built a company from scratch in Santa Monica back in the early 80s. Missed ball games, anniversaries, the little things that end up meaning everything. I lost my wife, Shannon, to cancer, and I thought my sacrifice would at least buy my son a life of stability. Instead, it bought me a spoiled heir with champagne taste and beer bottle ambition. That night at the Sunset Tower, I watched his hand tremble just slightly as he stirred a glass of fresh-squeezed orange juice the waiter had set down in front of me. Curtis, the kid working our table, leaned in when Devin wasn't looking and whispered, "Sir, your son put something in your drink." His words dropped like a stone into my stomach. And that's when it hit me. My own blood was ready to spill mine, just for a quicker payday. I didn't drink. Instead, I smiled, lifted the glass high, and let the liquid pour slow into the tall potted plant beside me. Nobody noticed but Curtis. Within minutes, the glossy green leaves started curling inward, like they were folding up in pain. That's when I knew. This wasn't some cheap trick. It was poison. I dabbed my mouth with a napkin, forced a cough, and excused myself as if I wasn't feeling well. Devin barely hid his smirk. Monica scribbled in her little leather notebook like she was calculating the inheritance. I walked out into the warm Los Angeles night. Fireworks bursting overhead, my mind sharper than it had been in years. Because if my son thought I'd just keel over and hand him the keys to everything I built, he was dead wrong. And he had no idea what I was about to set in motion. I didn't sleep that night. Not a wink. I sat in my penthouse, staring out over Los Angeles, the city lights flickering like a million lies. My glass of bourbon sat untouched. Couldn't bring myself to drink after what almost happened. Every tick of the grandfather clock echoed in my chest. My own son, my flesh and blood, had decided $33 million was worth more than my life. I kept replaying Curtis's words. "Sir, your son put something in your drink." The kid had no reason to lie. And the plant, its leaves were blackening already, shriveled like burnt paper. Proof. Cold, undeniable proof. I poured myself into memories to keep from breaking. Back in 1983, I was sweating in a Santa Monica garage, soldering circuits, chasing a dream called Tech Trend. I gave everything, my youth, my marriage, my health. Shannon would bring me sandwiches at midnight, whispering, "One day this will pay off." She believed in me when no one else did, but she never lived to see the reward. Cancer took her before the company took off. And Devin, he only learned how to spend the money, never how to earn it. I realized something that night. I had built a kingdom of glass, and my son had picked up the first stone. The thought almost broke me, but then it did something else. It hardened me. I knew what I had to do. First, I needed proof, real proof, not just a dying plant. Second, I needed a plan. And third, I needed patience. Devin thought I was old, weak, ready to crumble. He had no idea of the fight. He'd just woken up. I picked up the phone, dialed a number I hadn't used in years. Ivy's lab, top-notch toxicology. If that orange juice was poisoned, she'd tell me exactly what it was. And then I'd start building my counterattack. Because if Devin and Monica wanted a war over my legacy, they'd just declared it. And I was done losing. Morning came heavy, like smog settling over the Hollywood Hills. I carried that small glass vial, what was left of the juice, wrapped in a plastic bag like it was dynamite. Every step down in my car felt deliberate, like I was walking towards something irreversible. I drove through the tangle of L.A. traffic, past billboards screaming about new tech I didn't care about anymore, until I reached Ivy's lab. She'd worked with me back in TechTrend's early days, running chemical analyses on prototypes. Sharp mind, sharper ethics. If anyone could tell me the truth, it was her. She greeted me with a puzzled smile. "Frederick? Haven't seen you in years. What's this?" I slid the vial across the counter. My voice was flat. "Tell me if it's poison." The way she glanced from me to the vial said enough. She knew not to ask more. "Give me a day," she whispered. I nodded, left, and walked back into the California sun. On the drive home, my thoughts circled like vultures. Devin's face at the dinner table. How he couldn't even look me in the eye when he stirred that glass. Monica scribbling notes, always calculating. I realized it wasn't just greed. It was entitlement. They believed they deserved everything I'd built, and that made them dangerous. Back at the penthouse, I poured coffee and stared at the stack of documents on my desk. My will, my estate plans, all of it written under the assumption that family meant loyalty. But loyalty had died with Shannon. Devin and Monica had traded it for dollar signs. That night, alone in the quiet, I spoke out loud to her photo. "I won't let them win. Sean, I swear it." My phone buzzed just before midnight. A message from Ivy. For words that froze me solid. Confirmed. Lethal dose. Cyanide. I set the phone down, my hands trembling, not from fear anymore, but from rage. Devin had tried to kill me, and now I had proof. The next move was mine. I didn't wait long after Ivy's message. The next morning, I called Warren, my attorney for over 2 decades, the only man who'd seen me claw my way from broke dreamer to multimillionaire. His voice on the line was steady. But when I told him why I needed to see him, there was a long pause. Finally, he said, "Come in. Today." Driving through Beverly Hills to his office, I felt something I hadn't in years. Clarity. Betrayal sharpens a man. I walked past the polished marble lobby, into Warren's oak-paneled office, and laid it all out. Devin, Monica, the poisoned drink, the plant, Ivy's report. His jaw tightened, but he didn't look surprised. "I warned you," he said quietly. "That boy never respected what you built." We opened my will right then and there. The pen felt heavier than any weapon as I signed away $33 million. Not to my son, not to that snake he married, but to a foundation for cancer research. In Shannon's name, my wife's name. Suddenly it all felt right, like I'd finally closed a circle that had been open since the day she passed. Warren looked me in the eye. "You understand, Frederick, when they find out..." I cut him off. "They already tried to bury me. This is me burying them." Leaving his office, I felt 10 years younger. It wasn't fear driving me anymore, it was purpose. Devin thought he was playing chess, but I'd just taken his queen off the board. That evening, standing on my balcony, I watched the city burn orange with sunset. I thought about Shannon, about the nights I missed her hand in mine, because I was too busy chasing profit. The irony wasn't lost on me. All those years I sacrificed for family, and now family was trying to sacrifice me. But I wasn't finished. Not yet. A will was just paper. What I wanted was justice, in the flesh, in their eyes, undeniable. So I picked up the phone and made a reservation at the Sunset Tower. Same table, same scene, and this time I'd be the one serving poison. The maitre d' at the Sunset Tower recognized my name immediately. "Of course, Mr. Langston, your usual corner table." My voice didn't tremble when I said, "Make it for 3. Devin and Monica wouldn't know it yet, but I was inviting them to their own execution, an execution of reputation, of entitlement, of every illusion they'd built around my fortune. For days leading up to it, I rehearsed every word, every gesture. I polished the silver frame of Shannon's photo, set it on my desk, and told her everything. They won't walk away untouched this time. I promised. And when I looked into her eyes in that photo, I swore I saw approval flicker back at me. The night of the dinner, I arrived early. The dining room hummed with quiet jazz, glasses clinking under the soft glow of chandeliers. I laid a small box on the table. Inside, a piece of the plant I'd poisoned with Devin's drink. Its leaves, now black and brittle, curled inward like burned scripture. Next to it, sealed in an envelope, the toxicology report with Ivy's signature. Devin and Monica swept in fashionably late, dripping arrogance. Devin's suit was sharp, but his eyes were glassy, restless. Monica wore red, lipstick perfectly drawn, every move rehearsed like she was on stage. She kissed my cheek and whispered, "You're looking well, Frederick." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I studied them both, forcing a small smile. I thought we should celebrate. Big changes ahead. Devin smirked, probably imagining the inheritance he thought was his. As we ordered, I slid the small box closer to me, fingers resting on it like it was a loaded gun. My heart thumped, not with fear, but with anticipation. I raised my glass of water, meeting their eyes one by one. "To family," I said. Devin clinked reluctantly. Monica echoed with her rehearsed laugh. And as the waiter set down our meals, I slowly opened the box. The sight of those dead leaves froze a smile right off Monica's face. Devin leaned forward, his knuckles whitening around his fork. "Do you know what this is?" I asked, my voice low, steady. The room around us faded. All that existed was the blackened plant between us, and the truth about to detonate. Devin squinted at the plant, his brow furrowing like he was staring at some alien artifact. Monica, though, her mask cracked for just a second, a twitch at the corner of her mouth, a sharp inhale. She knew. "This," I said, tapping the brittle leaf of my finger, "used to be alive, strong, green, until something was poured into its soil." I let the pause stretch, the clinking of cutlery and the murmur of other diners filling the silence. Then I looked Devin dead in the eyes. The same thing that was in my drink. His fork slipped, clattering against the plate. Monica leaned in, hissing through her teeth, "Frederick, that's absurd. Are you seriously accusing your own son?" I slid the sealed envelope across the table. My hand was steady, not accusing, proving. Devin's hands shook as he tore it open. He scanned Ivy's report, his lips moving without sound. "Cyanide. Confirmed. Lethal dose." The color drained from his face. Monica tried to snatch the paper, but I pulled it back. "You don't need to read it. You already knew." The air between us thickened, like the whole restaurant was watching even if no one dared look. Devin tried to speak, but his voice cracked. "Dad, you're twisting this. It was a mistake." "Don't." I snapped, the word cutting sharp in the blade. "You had a choice. Both of you did. And you chose greed over blood." Monica finally broke her silence, her voice low but venomous. "If you think anyone will believe this ridiculous show and tell, you're delusional." I smiled, the kind of smile I hadn't felt in years. Calm, certain. "Oh, they'll believe it. Because Curtis will swear under oath he saw your husband spike my drink." That name landed like a hammer. Devin's eyes went wide, Monica's lips parted, but no words came out. I leaned back in my chair, folded my hands. "So now the question is, do you want me to take this to the police, or should I just erase you from my life another way?" Their silence was answer enough, and that was when the waiter, Curtis himself, approached our table, tray in hand, eyes locked on them. Curtis set the tray down with the steady hands of a man who knew he was walking into fire. His eyes flicked me first, respectful, calm, then locked on Devin and Monica. The air around our table went electric. Diners nearby lowered their voices, sensing something was unraveling. "Evening," Curtis said, his tone sharp enough to cut glass. "Mr. Langston, everything to your liking?" I nodded. "Perfect timing, Curtis. Actually, I was just telling my family about your observation the other night." Devin stiffened. Monica's nails tapped against her wine glass, a nervous rhythm she couldn't suppress. Curtis shifted his weight, leaned in just enough for them to hear. "I saw it clear as day. Your son poured powder into your drink. I wasn't raised to keep quiet about murder." The words dropped heavy, undeniable. Devin's jaw clenched, his face blotchy with panic. "You're lying," he barked, too loud. Heads turned from other tables. The humiliation had begun. Monica grabbed his arm, whispering frantically, "Keep your voice down." But it was too late. The whisper of scandal rippled through the dining room. I kept my gaze steady on Devin. You tried to erase me from money, but all you've done is erase yourselves. Curtis straightened, meeting my eyes. If you need me in court, sir, I'll be there. With that, he walked away, leaving silence in his wake. Devin's hand shook as he reached for his glass. But he didn't drink. His mask was gone, replaced by a boy cornered, exposed. Monica's eyes darted across the room, measuring the damage, calculating how far the shame might spread. I leaned forward, lowering my voice to a blade's edge. This was your first chance to confess. Instead, you chose denial. Remember that when the walls start closing in. For the first time, Devin didn't look like my son. He looked like a stranger. And as I pushed the dead plant closer to his plate, I realized this was only the beginning of their fall. Devin shoved back his chair, the legs screeching against the marble floor. A few diners flinched at the sound. He pointed a trembling finger at me, his voice cracking loud enough for the whole restaurant to hear. You're ruining this family. Dad, you're insane. The irony nearly made me laugh. He tried to kill me, yet I was the villain. Monica's face burned crimson. Her carefully curated image of control was unraveling. She reached for his arm, whispering, "Sit down, you're making a scene." But the scene was exactly what I wanted. I stayed calm, let his tantrum echo through the room. "Family?" I said, my voice measured, deliberate. "Family doesn't slip cyanide into your drink on the 4th of July. The words hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. Gasps trickled from nearby tables. Devin froze mid-rant, realizing everyone had heard. Monica's hand dropped from his sleeve, her mask cracking into shards. I leaned back, letting the silence swallow them. You thought no one would know, but now they all do. My voice was steady, and that steadiness was its own kind of blade. Devin collapsed back into his chair, eyes darting, desperate for a way out. Monica grabbed her clutch, knuckles white. "We're leaving," she hissed. "Leave," I said coolly. "But understand this, tonight you've been exposed. Not just to me, to the world you care so much about impressing." They stood, stiff, their dignity bleeding onto the floor with every step toward the exit. Whispers followed them out the door, poison, murder, inheritance, spreading like wildfire. I didn't move. I sat in that chair, finished my water, and let the humiliation they'd tasted linger. This was the first cut, the first scar they couldn't hide. But deep down, I knew it wasn't enough. Not yet. They thought shame would pass with the night. I intended to make it permanent. The next morning, the headlines hadn't caught it, but the whispers had. In circles like theirs, reputation travels faster than newsprint. Monica's phone must have been buzzing nonstop, because by noon I got a call from Warren. He chuckled darkly. "You certainly made waves last night. Half of Beverly Hills knows your son had a meltdown at the Sunset Tower. Exactly as I planned. One public crack in their polished facade, and the rot would spread. Devin and Monica thrived on appearances. Charity galas, rooftop parties, their faces lit by flashbulbs. Strip away the sheen and they'd crumble. I stood at my balcony, coffee cooling in my hand, staring at the Griffith Observatory across the hazy skyline. Shannon and I used to hike those trails. She'd point at the stars and remind me how small we really were. I could almost hear her voice that morning, steady and forgiving. Don't let them take more than they already have. But forgiveness wasn't what kept me breathing. It was justice. By midday, Devin showed up at my penthouse unannounced. His eyes were bloodshot, his suit wrinkled. He slammed his fist on my counter. "Do you have any idea what you've done? People are talking. Investors, friends. Monica won't even leave the house." I sipped my coffee, unbothered. "Good. Maybe now you'll understand what it feels like to lose everything you think defines you." He sneered. "You think you've won? You're an old man playing games. Without me, Tech Trend is nothing." I set the cup down, slow and deliberate. Tech Trend hasn't been yours for a long time, and soon it won't be mine either. The color drained from his face. He hadn't expected me to pull that card so soon. "Sold," I said simply. $33 million, already in motion. Devin staggered back like I'd hit him. His lips moved, but no sound came. He realized, in that instant, that not only had he lost his mask in public, he was about to lose the golden goose itself. And I hadn't even shown him the will yet. Devin paced my living room like a caged animal, his polished shoes squeaking against the hardwood. "You can't do this," he spat. "Tech Trend is family. It's my legacy." I leaned against the counter, arms folded, letting him wear himself down. "Legacy? You never built a damn thing. You treated Tech Trend like an ATM, nothing more." His face twisted, boyish tantrum hiding behind a man's features. "I put my time in," he shouted. I barked a laugh, sharp and bitter. "Time? You mean those afternoons you showed up late to board meetings, hungover, while Monica whispered in your ear like some Wall Street ventriloquist? That's not building, Devin. That's leeching." He froze, the truth slapping him harder than my words. His jaw clenched, but he didn't deny it. He couldn't. I walked to the desk, pulled out a folder, and laid it flat. "The sale closes in 2 weeks. $33 million wired directly into accounts you'll never touch." His eyes followed the papers like prey spotting a trap. "And here," I said, sliding over another envelope, "is the new will. You and Monica? Cut out. Every cent goes to cancer research in Shannon's name." His breath hitched. For once, he was speechless. "You tried to kill me for money," I said, my voice steady, quiet. "But money doesn't owe me any more. You don't owe me." He slammed his fists on the desk, veins bulging at his temples. "You're destroying me." "No," I corrected, leaning forward, inches from his face. "You destroyed yourself the second you chose greed over blood." He staggered back, pale, shaking, the weight of it crushing him. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes, not a prison, not a shame, but irrelevance. And as he stumbled toward the door, I knew I wasn't finished. Because humiliation in a restaurant was one thing, but watching him drown in the truth of his own failure, that was only phase 2. 2 days passed, and I didn't hear from Devin. Not a word, not a call, but silence in the city is louder than sirens. I knew he was scrambling, probably leaning on Monica's manipulative charm to stitch together whatever scraps of dignity they had left. But dignity, once torn, doesn't mend. It unravels. That Saturday, I received an invitation. Not from Devin, of course. He never stooped to that. From Monica. An exclusive fundraiser at Glasswall Mansion in the Hills proceeds in support of young entrepreneurs. The kind of event where champagne flows like tap water and reputations are traded like stocks. My gut told me it wasn't an olive branch. It was damage control. I almost declined. Then I realized this was my stage. Another chance to tighten the vice. I RSVP'd yes. The mansion glowed like a lighthouse when I arrived, valet parking clogged with Bentleys and Teslas. Inside, the air reeked of perfume, ego, and desperation. I spotted Monica across the room in a glittering silver dress, smiling wide, her laugh rehearsed, her hand clamped too tightly on Devin's arm. He looked thinner, drained, like a man drinking seawater to quench thirst. I mingled quietly, letting whispers find me. And they did. A hedge fund manager leaned in, voice low. "Heard about that scene at the Sunset Tower. Is it true?" I didn't answer. I just smiled. Silence, I knew, can scream louder than confession. Eventually, Monica approached. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Frederick, I'm so glad you came." I raised my glass. "Wouldn't miss it. Always a pleasure watching you perform." Her grip on the stem of her glass tightened, knuckles white. "We're trying to move past misunderstandings." "Funny," I said softly. "Misunderstandings don't usually come with cyanide." Her face paled. She glanced around, terrified someone had overheard. They hadn't. But I knew she'd live in fear that they might. And that was when the host of the night, an old business rival of mine, clinked his glass and called Devin to the stage to give a speech about family legacy. The spotlight hit him like a firing squad. Devin stepped onto the stage, the spotlight bleaching his face, sweat gleaming at his temples. He gripped the microphone like it might steady him, but his hand shook just enough for the whole room to see. Monica stood at the edge of the crowd, her smile frozen, whispering silent instructions with her eyes. Good evening, Devin began, voice thin, brittle. We're here tonight to celebrate legacy, innovation, and, the future. His words stumbled like a drunk down a staircase. A few polite claps filled the silence. I watched from the back, arms folded. The same man who once sneered at me across my own desk now looked like a boy shoved into his father's suit. I didn't have to do anything. The poison of truth was already working through him. Devin cleared his throat, eyes darting around the room. My father, he built Tech Trend. And, we, Monica and I, were honored to carry that torch. That was my cue. I raised my voice, just enough to slice through the crowd. Funny, Devin, I thought you tried to snuff that torch out on Independence Day. The room turned to me. Gasps rippled. Devin froze, deer in headlights. Monica's smile cracked. Her hand clutched at her clutch like it might save her. Devin stammered, That's a lie. I stepped closer, my tone calm, measured, deadly. Asked the waiter. Asked the lab. Asked the plant that withered in front of me. Cyanide doesn't lie. Murmurs erupted, a tide of judgment swelling around him. The same socialites who once clapped him on the back now leaned away, their eyes sharp with suspicion. Devin's face collapsed, crimson with shame. Dad, please, he whispered into the mic, voice cracking, desperate. But I wasn't pleading. I was delivering a sentence. You wanted my legacy, son? Here it is. Everyone now knows what kind of man you are. The host cleared his throat, awkwardly tugging Devin off stage. The applause that followed was scattered, pitying, and as Devin disappeared into the wings, I felt it. This was a second strike, another public crack in the mask. But there was one final stage left, the place where I would end it all for good. After the fundraiser, the calls started pouring in, not to Devin, but to me, old colleagues, investors. Even rivals reached out, their voices heavy with the same question. Is it true? I didn't need to confirm it. My silence, the kind you can only hold when you've got nothing left to lose, said everything. In this city, silence is louder than denial. Devin and Monica went underground for a week. Their social media accounts, usually flooded with curated luxury, went dark. Rumor was they'd been uninvited from 2 galas and a board dinner. Their empire wasn't built on money. It was built on perception. And perception was collapsing like a house of cards in the Santa Ana winds. Meanwhile, I felt lighter. For the first time in years, I jogged the trails at Griffith Park, the same one Shannon and I used to walk. I carried her photo in my pocket, touched it like a talisman, and whispered, It's almost done, Sean. Almost. But peace never lasts. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky blood orange, I found Monica waiting outside my building, dressed immaculate as always, but her eyes were frantic, darting like a cornered animal. We need to talk, she hissed, grabbing my arm. Inside. Now. I let her in, poured her a glass of water she didn't touch. She paced, heels striking the floor like gunshots. You're destroying us. Devin is falling apart. He can't sleep, he can't eat, he's barely himself. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. He stopped being himself the moment he tried to kill me. Her mask slipped, just for a second. The steel in her gaze hardened. You think anyone cares about your so-called evidence? Without you, Tech Trend is worthless. You cut us out and you'll regret it. I studied her, calm, steady. No, Monica, the only thing I regret is letting you 2 feed off me this long. She glared, her face pale with fury. This isn't over, she whispered. And then she left, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. But she was wrong. It was almost over, because the final dinner at the Sunset Tower was already set. The reservation was under my name again. Same corner table, same soft glow of chandeliers, same jazz humming low like a heartbeat. The Sunset Tower had become the stage for this twisted family play, and I intended to deliver the last act myself. I arrived early as always, placing 2 objects carefully on the table. First, the brittle stem of that poison plant, sealed in a glass case. Second, a copy of my new will, thick with legal weight, Warren's signature at the bottom. The tools of my justice, plain as day. When Devin and Monica entered, the room seemed to recoil. Some guests recognized him from the last spectacle. Whispers rose like a tide. Devin's suit hung looser on him, his face pale, eyes bloodshot. Monica, though still radiant in emerald silk, carried tension in every step. They sat down, trying to play their parts. Monica forced a smile. Another dinner, Frederick? What are we celebrating this time? I held her gaze. The end. Devin shifted uneasily. Dad, please, this is madness. I cut him off, sliding the will across the table. This is the future. $33 million, gone to cancer research in Shannon's name. Not a cent for you. You don't inherit my company. You don't inherit my money. You don't even inherit my name. Devin's hands trembled as he flipped through the pages. Each were a nail in the coffin of his entitlement. Monica snatched at the papers, her eyes blazing. But the signatures, the stamps, they were all real, unbreakable. Why? Devin's voice cracked, boyish, desperate. Because you already tried to take everything from me, I said quietly. All I'm doing now is making sure you never can again. The room was silent, diners pretending not to listen while leaning closer. I wanted them to hear. I wanted the humiliation carved into memory. Monica's mask finally shattered. She slammed the will shut, her voice rising. You vindictive old man. You'd rather give it to strangers in your own blood. I leaned forward, voice low, but cutting through the noise. Better strangers than murderers. And at that moment, Curtis appeared again at our table, carrying a tray, eyes locked, ready to play his part one final time. Curtis placed the tray down with the grace of a judge handing down a verdict. On it, 2 glasses of water, clear and cold beneath the chandelier light. His eyes flicked from me to Devin, then to Monica, lingering just long enough to twist a knife. Evening, he said evenly, thought you 3 might be thirsty. On the house. Devin flinched like the glasses were grenades. Monica's lips parted, but no words came. I let the silence stretch, let the symbolism burn itself into their minds. I lifted one glass, held it to the light. Funny thing about trust, I said softly. You never think about it until it's gone, until you're staring at a drink, wondering if it'll keep you alive or drop you dead. Monica's hand twitched toward her glass, then stopped. Devin's face had gone waxy pale. The memory of July 4th was carved into him now, a permanent scar. I set my glass back down, untouched. This is who you become. People who can't even take a sip of water without thinking of poison. That's the life you've earned. Curtis nodded at me, then stepped back, leaving the weight of his presence hanging in the air. Devin shoved the will across the table. You can't do this, he croaked. We're your family. I leaned forward, voice calm, merciless. Family died the night you tried to kill me. The words landed like a gavel. Monica's composure crumbled, her hands shaking as she clutched her clutch like a lifeline. Devin looked down, defeated, stripped of every illusion of control. Around us, whispers rippled again. I didn't need a courtroom. The judgment was already being delivered, table by table, ear by ear. I stood, sliding the plant case and will back into my hands. Enjoy your drinks, I said coldly. Neither of them moved. Neither touched the glasses. And as I walked out into the night, I knew there was only one step left. The final cut. The strike that would bury them for good. The night air outside the Sunset Tower was thick with jasmine and smog, a cocktail only Los Angeles could mix. I carried the glass case and the will like trophies, proof that justice could be carved by one man's hand. But my work wasn't finished until they felt the final blow, the one they couldn't claw their way back from. 2 days later, Warren summoned them to his office. They arrived late, as usual, Monica in black, Devin hollow-eyed, dragging behind her like a shadow. I was already seated, the will open on the polished desk. Warren adjusted his glasses, his voice steady. As executor, I must formally state, Mr. Langston has redirected his estate in full to medical research. Effective immediately, Devin and Monica are removed as beneficiaries. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Devin sagged in his chair, lips trembling, unable to speak. Monica's face blanched, her fingers clenching her pearls until Strand nearly snapped. I leaned forward, meeting their eyes. You wanted my death to buy you freedom. Instead, my life just cost you everything. Devin's voice cracked, barely a whisper. Dad, please? I shook my head. No, you had a father. You poisoned him. Now you have nothing. Warren closed the folder with a soft thud, the sound final as earth on a coffin. It was done. I stood, leaving them in that oak panel room, stripped bare of money, of legacy, of illusion they ever held power over me. Outside, sunlight spilled across Beverly Hills, blinding and clean. For the first time in years, I felt free. That evening, I hiked to Griffith Park, carrying Shannon's photo. I sat on a bench overlooking the city, the horizon painted gold. I whispered, "It's over, Sean. They can't touch us anymore." The glass case with the withered plant lay beside me, brittle leaves curling inward like a secret kept too long. I left it there under the setting sun, a symbol of their poison and of my survival. And as the city lights flickered on below, I smiled, because justice had proven sweeter than revenge. And blood? Blood was thinner than cyanide. If you like this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the right.